So,
Yeah, I mean, it partly gets into that conversation, which quite could have this conversation better than I could, but it's one of the things that a state bank or bank institution would be able to do. I mean, just very briefly, you all probably all understand this, but you know, we pay our taxes and the state gets other sources of money. When you pay your taxes, all our money is deposited essentially in TD Bank. So they take our money and they loan it out wherever they want to loan it out, around the country, around the world. They don't loan that much to small businesses in Vermont anymore. They make a profit because they're a bank institution. And at the end of the year, their profit is shared with their shareholders. And from my point of view, what we're talking about is when we all pay our taxes, we'd like to see our tax dollars, that revenue, deposited in a Vermont institution, which then makes loans that are in line with Vermonters' priorities. And then, you know, we pay fewer fees, you know, and when if there is a profit at the end of the year, the profit goes back to the general fund. But one of the things it does is it makes it less necessary, some would argue unnecessary, for us to be bonding to raise money, because you buy bonds, you pay interest to Wall Street. If we had our own money, we'd be buying the bonds from ourselves, essentially, or we would not have to bond. So we would reduce all those costs. We spent $70 million on bonding debt last year. $70 million is a lot. That's money that we paid to use Wall Street's money. So they made $70 million off of us. And yet when you have a priority like this, it goes back to what I said before about we don't seem to have the money. Well, we all paid our taxes. There's money somewhere. It's just that we don't have access to the money that is ours. And it's public money. And we're basically putting it in a private institute. It'd be like if you got your tax deposit back or something and you invested it in some investment firm and you said to them, why don't you just keep the profit? I don't really need the profit anyway. You know, we're giving our money to TD Bank and they're keeping the profit that they make off of our money. So one option would be to start in a small scale by setting up what I mentioned before, and I haven't thought this through enough, but a renewable energy bank. We say, we're all paying our taxes. It's $1 bazillion that's going to TD Bank North. How about $10 million of it went into a fund that we designated as a renewable energy bank, and it was used to make loans, whether it's for the PACE program or homeowners or whatever it might be, for solar installations and other on-site. I don't think it would work for the industrial size, but other on-site energy. Anyway, the point is that there's money out there. We just have to start rethinking whether or not we're going to gain access to our own money again.
One of the other things we're going to focus on, which is a similar subject, is thermal efficiency.
Right.
And we're going to get this report back, and we all know, because we've studied it before, that there are 80,000 structures in the state of Vermont that need upgrading. It's the best bang for the buck that we can possibly invest in, and the report's going to tell us that it's going to need about $26 million a year to sustain this effort. The first thing that we're going to have to do is to educate Vermonters about how valuable thermal efficiency investment is to them. Not first talk about what are we going to tax to raise the money. We first have to get them to buy into and understand how valuable it is to them personally, and how much they stand to gain from it.
So that bill passed 3 years ago. It was vetoed by the government.
Correct.
The legislature
Yes.
has passed that bill already.
Yes. But now the discussion will be, okay, well, let's put all the potential funding sources that could do it. We're going to talk about a carbon tax, no question about it. We're going to talk about, personally, I think that heating oil is the devil, and for this, and heating oil, but heating oil creates the problem. You don't pay 1 penny to solve the problem. We figured it out with electricity because it's a regulated utility, and we now invest $45 million a year in electric efficiency, and we just have to figure out how to make that connection for thermal efficiency. But I think the most important part will be absolutely educating Vermonters about getting them to really understand how good it is for them personally, and then they won't mind.
I get to insert a little bit. So we have a governor that just said no broad-based taxes, which I never know exactly what that means.
Well, he's described what that means.
Okay,
that's
what
just
does that mean?
So that's sales tax. That's payroll tax. and property tax. Everything else, have at it, call it whatever you want.
But on the other hand, the heating oil, home heating oil tax is a tax which affects probably 7 out of 10 homes in every business. So frankly, I would call that broad-based, and I would call it regressive.
And regressive,
So
which
this
is-
idea that like, we don't raise broad-based taxes, we're just gonna tax everybody who heats their home. It's like, okay, that really carves out a lot of community.
You can play magic with words and you call it different things, and it can be an increased gross receipts tax, or, you know, I mean, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat.
But it is broad-based, and I just think if we're gonna be raising revenue with people, we should be honest about what we're doing.
Sure,
Say it's
yes.
broad-based, it's gonna affect basically everybody.
Well, there's over $800 million a year spent on heating oil in Vermont. And I'm picking that number because I think it's pretty accurate. When you consider there's 185,000 houses in Vermont that were built prior to 1978, they could all use an energy efficient upgrade. You use materials that are made in the United States, typically, insulation, windows, all that stuff. You buy them from local contractors through their local suppliers. It is a huge economic boom for Vermont. It puts contractors back to work, and they're hungry. So to not have a $9 million supply of money to sponsor, to support PACE is crazy.
Absolutely.
Maybe there's a way to link them.
We have some questions around here too. Make sure you put your hand up high to vote.
Can I just ask before we move on again, when we're talking about the weatherization money, would that be in the form of grants or loans, or how would that money be?
PACE is an assessment from the city. So you're not really borrowing it, it's
Right.
the city's
Stays with you.
investing in your upgrade, and then you pay it back as a tax. So it runs with the property, and it runs for the length of the improvement. So it makes it a lot more affordable to people because of the city's low interest.
And so then what is about the need for the additional $9 million?
So that would fund the PACE lending,
Right, okay.
If you start the pool.
because the only other way to do it is to get the cities to bond for it.
Right.
That's really hard. I mean,
So the
it's
point
not
is the
good
money
to
has to
bond
be-
for this?
No.
Right, so the
Right.
point again, the money has to be raised from somewhere initially, whether it's
Exactly.
installing solar or weatherizing homes, there needs to be a pot of money to start.
We just bond for $8 million elementary school projects.
Yeah, for schools.
Yes.
Right.
Back to the carbon tax, I understand the concerns about low income and even middle income people, but there must be a way to deal with that, with some kind of income sensitivity program, maybe a voucher system or something. Because I think
Yeah.
it just seems like an important thing to do.
Yeah, I would presume that we haven't gotten to that level of the conversation yet, but I'm sure they'll